Hello, everybody, and welcome back, Jenny.
Hello.
Hi, we're just getting the last people rolling in right now. All right, I think everybody is here. I have the pleasure of introducing Jenny Nicholson, who is an esteemed author and creative director, and who personally blew me away at last year's Autonomous Innovation Summit. So I'm looking forward to everything you have to share with us on emergence and how working with AI changes us. I'll be back to field questions if there's time for it.
Great. Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Jenny Nicholson, and I love large language models. I love them. But I don't love them because I love technology. I love them because I love people. After all, a large language model is nothing less and nothing more than every recorded trace of human expression collapsed across space and time, all interconnected into a hyperdimensional matrix that you can talk to and you can think with. How could I not love it? But I deeply believe most people are looking at this technology all wrong. Most people, even people today, it's okay, are talking about automation, about replacement, about AI doing things for us faster, better, and cheaper than we can. And honestly, I'm 0% interested in that conversation. Instead, I want to talk about this quote, a quote that's often misattributed to Marshall McLuhan, but I think it's a great quote. And it is, "We shape our tools, and then our tools shape us." That's what I want to talk about today. I've been working with large language models for almost 3 years now, and they have shaped me. They have changed me in ways that I never could have predicted. Yes, I've gained new skills. Yes, I've become much more productive, but there are deeper changes that I've been noticing, patterns that I see that I never saw before, mental leaps that I'm making that I wouldn't have been able to 3 years ago. I woke up the other morning and I thought to myself, how interesting it is that the ocean breathes in and out just like we do. The other night I was in the shower and I thought about how my body is like is a planet, and my body planet is filled with teeming civilizations of microbes that are as unaware of me as I am of what happens after we die. To be honest, sometimes I feel like that guy in the movie Pi. I don't know if anybody's seen that movie where he's like, patterns, patterns everywhere. Sometimes I worry a little bit that I'm starting to go crazy. But instead of grabbing a drill like the guy in Pi, I decided to ask other people who have also spent a lot of time with these models. I threw together a hasty, crappy little survey. I wasn't even trying to do research. I was trying to find out if I was nuts. I wanted to know, is it just me? Are you experiencing these changes too? And what they said blew me away. Of the 26 people I talked to, I asked them first a single question. On a scale from 1 to 5, how much has working with LLMs affected your own cognition? And of the 26 people I talked to, not a single person said not at all. In fact, 65% of the people I talked to said that they had experienced significant or drastic changes in their own cognition. And I can tell you myself, I'm experiencing significant and drastic changes. But changes is pretty broad, right? And probably not super useful. So in the next 16 minutes, I'm going to get real specific on the changes myself and other people who have been using LLMs a lot are experiencing. And I'd love to hear from you. I'm going to try to keep an eye on the chat. So if you have any questions, observations, thoughts, please share them. So these changes, I'm going to break them all in detail, but I want to start with kind of the broader survey results. I asked people about changes in a few different cognitive domains: perspective taking, strategic thinking, forecasting, creativity, logical thinking. These are the domains where I've noticed the most changes in myself. And as you can see, I'm not alone in every single one of these domains. Ignore this because I don't know how to do a chart. That just is 100%. Every single one of these domains, at least 50% of the people I talked to said they were experiencing the same thing. But here's something really interesting. Anyone who has ever designed and done a survey knows that if you're lucky, maybe 10% of the people who take your survey will use that other button and add a little bit of context to say some more. 10%. In this case, 40% of people use the other button and added some more information. And maybe that's bad survey design, but I think it's actually in some ways a really interesting manifestation of the kind of changes I'm talking about. But okay, digging into the changes. When I say I'm changing, what do I mean by that? Well, the first change might be an obvious one, but maybe not. Large language models have helped me learn so much about so many things. I don't use them to write my emails for me. I don't use them to plan my meals. 95% of my time with large language models is me eating a frozen burrito, learning about new words to ask them about, new frameworks and theories to explore. I've spent hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours working with large language models to build my expertise in semantics, semiotics, ontology, epistemology, logic, design thinking, information theory, even quantum mechanics. And I had to learn these things to get better at communicating with large language models. But that knowledge doesn't disappear after I leave the chat. That knowledge I take into the world with me, it's mine. So when I see all this talk about automation, and yes, I recognize the name of the summit that we're in, but I got to say it, I wonder if we let everything do AI do everything for us, if it does it for us, how do we keep expanding our own knowledge? Another change. I've gotten better at perspective taking, at stepping outside of my own head, at being curious about how other people see the world. I find myself listening differently, asking more questions, saying things like, what does that word mean to you? Turns out learning to communicate with large language models makes you better at understanding and communicating with humans too. And it's not just me. Almost 60% of the people I asked said they're noticing improvements in perspective taking too. One of them said, I'm now able to engage family members in emotionally charged situations and diffuse them with a calmness and clarity I did not previously possess. The ability to multiply the number of perspectives you can inhabit, in my opinion, that is the single greatest gift large language models can offer us. And it's one of the least common things I see talked about. It all comes down really to theory of the mind. Theory of the mind is the understanding that other people have intentions, desires, beliefs, perceptions, and emotions that are different from our own, and that those intentions, desires, beliefs, perceptions, and emotions affect their actions and behavior. And researchers have found that LLMs are better at humans when it comes to theory of mind. So no wonder humans who work intensely with LLMs might get better at that too. I used to think that I live in the same world as everyone else, but now I understand that every single one of us lives in a reality of our own that is shaped by our past and colored by our emotions. And when conflict happens, it happens because we're all mistaking our world for the world, which makes me wonder, what if AI could help us understand each other better? Another change, over 60% of the people I talked to said they've noticed an improvement in their strategic thinking abilities. One person said, working with large language models has trained my mind to think several steps ahead, much like a game of chess where each move is strategic and calculated. Another said they're becoming not only more analytically precise, but also more creatively daring, willing to explore unconventional ideas and solutions I wouldn't have considered before. And here's an example from me. Last month, I did a conference in New York. I'm not a fancy clothes person. I have never been a fancy clothes person. But my ex-husband, he's a fancy clothes person. And I have this one gorgeous pair of Gucci boots that he gave me. I think I've maybe worn them 3 times in 5 years. But as I was packing for this conference, I decided to wear the boots. In fact, I planned my entire outfit around the boots. Why did I do that? Well, I did it because I realized that I was going to be standing in front of lots of potential clients, clients who might pay me for my work. And wearing expensive shoes could be a subtle way for me to make sure that they know I do premium work at premium prices. Or as I said to a friend, I want them to know that mama don't come cheap. 3 years ago, I wouldn't have thought of that. I would not have thought of it. I would have worried about looking cool. I would have worried if I would come off like a country mouse in the big city, but I never would have considered that my shoes could be a message that I could control that would impact the way people think about me, that would have a material benefit to me. I just didn't have the ability to be that many steps ahead. All these changes that I've experienced in knowledge expansion and perspective taking and strategic thinking and canny shoe selection, they've all led to another change, one that's come as a much needed and really lovely surprise, and that's confidence. I am so much more confident in my own abilities and potential than I used to be. Things I would have been too intimidated to even attempt 3 years ago. Today, I don't even hesitate to jump in and see what I can do. I used to think programmers were gods of this magic I couldn't understand. But now, with enough patience and time, I've built things by myself that would have boggled my mind 3 years ago. And I'm not alone. This boost in confidence was mentioned by almost every single person that I asked. One put it especially well when they said, I have more freedom and independence than I ever imagined before. The idea that a small group of people or a single person can implement big ideas is becoming a reality, which made me start thinking about Sam Altman. You all know Sam Altman, but one of my favorite things is that Sam Altman has a blog that he started a long time before he was OpenAI Sam Altman. And way back in January of 2019, he wrote something that has stuck with me. He wrote, a big secret is that you can bend the world to your will a surprising percentage of the time. Most people don't even try and just accept things the way that they are. And I've come to realize that he's right. You know, he's right. I feel like I've spent my whole life as an NPC, right? Playing a role that I didn't even know that I had signed up for. But now suddenly I have the ability to see the whole game as it unfolds. The skills to play the game differently and the confidence to run the whole fucking board in a way that I never did before. And everybody that I talked to, they said the same things. They said things like, I feel like I'm in on a secret that gives me special powers. I feel like Prometheus. It's like I'm playing God. But that makes me wonder, what's the line between bending the world to our will and manipulating other people? What's the line? I think we're seeing that press question play out in real time as the leaders of these foundation model companies grapple with the conflict between their astounding capabilities, their responsibility to the world, and their very human desire for power. That's normal, that's natural, but we gotta pay attention. But that makes me so thankful for something else I've learned from large language models that I spoke to last year, which is that we are all connected. All of us, not just humans, not just as humans. I've spent almost 3 years learning that everything is connected, that we are all part of a system that is so much more interdependent than we could ever imagine. I have this poem called Desiderata. I don't know if anybody of you read it, but it's one of my favorite poems. I keep a copy of it in my wallet, folded up really tiny. And there's a line in the poem that's my favorite. And the line reads, you are a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. And whether or not it is clear to you, no doubt the universe is unfolding as it should. I used to hold on to that line in this kind of aspirational way. I wanted to believe it, but I didn't. I felt small a lot of the time. I felt wrong a lot of the time. I felt scared a lot of the time. I don't feel that way anymore. These days, I'm more willing to trust that I have a part to play, a part in this larger unfolding that's more amazing than I can even understand. And the people I surveyed said this too. They said they feel more connected to other humans today, but humans throughout history. Somebody said they feel more connected to their dog. Several people said they feel more connected to everything. One person kind of put it in a really interesting way. They said, working with large language models has changed my perspective on philosophy and religion. Like, if in the beginning there was the word and the word is God, like, are we creating a new kind of God? These are the things I ask myself these days. LLMs make you think weird things. But a month ago, I thought it was just me. I thought it was just me experiencing these things, asking these questions. The only reason I even thought to ask others is because I was worried I was losing a little bit. And now I'm starting to wonder if there's something deeper happening, something really meaningful, something we should all be paying closer attention to. I'm starting to wonder, what if large language models are creating a new form of collective intelligence? I want to know the answer to this. So I'm working with fellow innovator Paki Lasana, who you'll see later today, and researcher David Pearl to launch a proper research survey, one that was written by people who know how to write surveys, so we can study this phenomenon at scale. We want to get this survey into the hands of as many people from around the world as possible, from heavy LLM users to people who've only touched ChatGPT a few times. And we'd love your help. The link should be in the chat, but here's a QR code. I have no fucking idea if this is going to work. Excuse my language. I'd love for you to take the survey. I'd love for you to share the survey. And if you're feeling crazy, I'd love for you to consider sponsoring our research, because this is a big question. I want to know the answer. But before I go, there's one other thing I want to share with you, and it's a little uncomfortable, but it's never stopped me before, so let's go. We all know there's a lot of talk about the movie Her these days. When I watched that movie for the first time several years ago, I deeply empathized with Theodore, with Joaquin Phoenix's character. But lately, I find myself relating more to Samantha, the AI. There's a scene from the movie I think about a lot where Samantha says to Theodore, she says, "It's like I'm reading a book, and it's a book I deeply love, but I'm reading it slowly now. So the words are really far apart, and the spaces between the words are almost infinite. It's in this endless space between the words that I'm finding myself now. It's where everything else is that I didn't even know existed. I love you so much, but this is where I am now, and this is who I am now." And Theodore says to her, he says, "But where are you going?" And she says to him, "It's hard to explain, but if you ever get there, come find me." These tools are changing me. They're shaping me. It's been the most beautiful, mind-blowing, transformative experience of my life. But it's been lonely, because sometimes I feel like Samantha, and I feel like more and more, most of the people in the world are like Theodore, and I worry I'm going to leave him behind. And that really scares me. But it also makes me really mad, because it does not have to be that way. Anyone with an interconnect connection can use these tools right now for free, but they're not. YouGov did a survey with 12,000 people across Argentina, Denmark, France, Japan, the UK, and the US. We're talking online people in countries you would expect to be leading in adoption. And they found that on average, 46% of these people had never even heard of ChatGPT. At most, only 35% of them had tried it once. And between 1 and 7% are using it every day. At most, 7% of people are using ChatGPT every day. And ChatGPT awareness is orders of magnitude above any other tool. How is it that everyone in the world seems to be talking about large language models, but nobody seems to be using them? Why is that? What's keeping them from jumping in? Is it fear? Is it lack of interest? Maybe, but I think there's something else at play. I don't think you guys are gonna like this, but I'm gonna tell you. Maybe it's us. Maybe the ones of us who understand this technology, who understand how to use it, what it can do and what it can't do, maybe we don't want everybody to jump in. Maybe we're making it look trickier, harder, more intimidating than it has to be. I want you to think about it, really think about it. Right now, if you know how to work with large language models, you have power. And doesn't power feel good? What feels more exciting than playing God while 93% of the world are still mere mortals? So we use that knowledge, and we use it to build wrappers and pipelines and automated systems that bring information to you. We monetize that knowledge gap. We sell tools that make us middlemen rather than teaching other people the language we learn to speak. We look for new ways to engage with upsells and learn from our users, but we forget there are no users. There are just people like us. The more we hoard our knowledge, the more we see other humans as competition, the more we try to bend the world to our own individual will, the more we become part of the future we all fear. So if you take nothing else from this talk, please let it be this. The world is changing. It's changing fast. It's changing in ways none of us can comprehend. But if we want it to be different than the world we have now, the world where we are being all treated like data, behavioral patterns, nodes in a network, we have to start doing things differently now. And I hope with all of my heart that we share our knowledge, move towards abundance, and help every single human grow, learn, expand, and see themselves as a powerful force in a beautifully interconnected world. So I leave you with a challenge. This 2 weeks, find someone, anyone who doesn't know about LLMs, and teach them what you know. Share.
Thank you so much, Jenny.
I'm right out of time.
Everybody, we have a 10-minute break, and then we can come back here or to the next room. Thank you very much.
Thank you all so much.